Hello students, welcome back to EduZone. Today we will be discussing about the most important questions from chapter 6, Political Parties, class 10, Democratic Politics. As you know, this is an important chapter for the board examination. It's also important to know about what are political parties, what are the necessity for political parties in democracy, their functions, then how to reform political parties, challenges, all that we will be covering in this chapter. So as you know, in the board examination, there are 2 marks and 3 mark questions included from this chapter. So I hope you have already gone through the sample paper released by CBSE, and we will be discussing about those questions of 2 marks and 3 marks, even including 5 marks questions also we will see today, because we have to expect all types of questions for board exam. So let us quickly look into the chapter in detail and find out the most important questions and study all those questions today. First and foremost, the first topic in this chapter is why do we need political parties? So before we understand the need for political parties, it's very important to know what are political parties. So this can be a question for 2 marks. What are political parties and what are the components of political parties? So please understand that political parties are a group of people who come together with common ideology, and they contest in elections to form the government. And the components of political party are leaders, active members, and followers. So if there is a question about to explain the components of political parties, then you write leaders, what is the role of leaders, then active members, what do they do, and then followers, what are their role in political parties. So this is the way you should answer the components of political parties. Then partisan and partisanship. Partisan, it can be asked to differentiate partisan and partisanship. Partisan is a person who is strongly committed to a party. Partisanship is like a tendency to take a side or inability to take a balanced view, like member and membership. Okay, so it is like member is a person who is strongly committed to a social group or a social organization, and then a membership is the affiliation to that organization, or it is a tendency to be a part of that organization. So that is the difference of partisan and partisanship. You please understand what is meant by those two. Next very important question is what are the functions of political parties? So when you write this answer, you should write the key point and explain. Like parties contest in elections. So write how are they contesting elections, how important are elections, because you should also write about representative democracy and the role of political parties in that. Then they put forward different policies and programs. This is another function of a political party. Making laws for the country, form and run the government, role of opposition, so and then they shape public opinion. They also give access to people for the government machinery and welfare schemes. So there are many points in your textbook, almost I think 7 points are there. So if it's a 5 mark question or 3 mark question, accordingly you should write the answer and explain each point. It's not that you write only key point, explain each point. Then about the necessity of political parties. So this is what is confused by students when they write necessity of political party or need for political party and functions of political party. So necessity means how important they are, what is the significance. It's not the functions. You should write the significance of political parties in democracy. Here you should write about the importance of representative democracy. Then they will be accountable to the people and they are ruling on behalf of the people. Then the first point, necessity of political parties, the first point can be written as the rise of political parties directly linked to the emergence of representative democracies, which is there in your textbook as an important point. Then large societies, they need representative democracy. Then societies are large and complex. They need some agency to gather different views on various issues. All these are the points related to the necessity of political parties in democracy. So please understand the difference between necessity of political party and functions of political party, and write the answer accordingly. Then you must also know about the different political party system, like one party system, two party system, and multi party system. One party system is also known as single party system, where one party only comes to power, or that party only rules the people and they always come to power. That is about one party system. Then about two party system, there are two main parties. One party will rule and other party will be the opposition party. United Kingdom and USA are the examples of two party systems, whereas China is an example of one party system. Then in the case of India, India follows a multi-party system. So there are several parties. When you write the answer, you write more than two parties are there in the multi-party system, which means more than two. There are students, they write more than one. More than one can be a two-party system also. So please understand, more than two-party system is called a multi-party system. This is another expected question. Different political party systems which are followed in democracies. Then other important one for a 2-mark question can be coalition government. In a multi-party system, there are chances for coalition government. So remember what is an alliance and what is coalition government. Alliance is a group of many political parties and they come together and form a government. So more than two political parties, they together form a government which is called a coalition government, which is a trend which is happening in a multi-party system. So remember what is coalition government, and examples also may be asked, like UPA, United Progressive Alliance, and NDA, National Democratic Alliance. All these can be the examples you can write. So what is coalition and give examples can be a question for 2 marks, which is expected from that part. Then about national political parties and regional political parties or state parties. So first of all, you must know what are national political parties. They are famous all over the country. They are also recognized political parties by Election Commission of India. They have their own participation in the Lok Sabha election. And about state parties are regional parties. They are famous in a state, and then they the criteria for a state party is that the party should secure at least 6% of total votes in an election to the Legislative Assembly of a state. They should win at least 2 seats, which is recognized as a state party. So the criteria for state party and national party you should remember. That is again another important question. Then next part of the chapter is all about the different national parties, like Indian National Congress, Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, then Bahujan Samaj Party, BSP, Communist Party of India, all those. So when you study about these political parties, national political parties, just note down there when and which year they were founded, or the main leaders of the party and the objectives of the party. So these are the main things to be remembered about these national parties. So which can be asked. What is the ideology of Bharatiya Janata Party can be asked. Who was the founder of BSP can be asked. Bahujan Samaj Party. And then what is the ideology, what is the main objective of the party also can be asked. So these kind of questions are expected about these national parties. So just note down the important points about national political parties, their the year of foundation, and then the main leaders and the objectives or the ideology of the party. Then about state parties, you should know the names of some state parties and criteria for a state party to be recognized by Election Commission of India. Another important area in this chapter about challenges to political parties. This is very, very important question as well. First challenge faced by political parties is lack of internal democracy. So when you write these answers in board examination, you write the key point, that is lack of internal democracy, and explain that. Lack of internal democracy means there are domination by the leaders to take the decisions instead of including every member. They won't include, because democracy follows the principle of participation of people. But then in a political party, only the leaders they take decision. That is called as lack of internal democracy. They should give chance to every member to take a decision. For example, there is an election, upcoming election, and then the candidates to be decided, then leaders will decide the candidate. That is called as lack of internal democracy. Let us quickly see the challenges to political parties. Next is money and muscle power, which means that they are influenced by political party leaders. They buy the vote. There are people who have criminal background. They also involved in political party activities. So all that can be included as a point of money and muscle power. Then dynastic succession. Dynastic succession means the leaders, they will give chance only to their relatives or sons or daughters. That is called dynastic succession. Then other point is parties, they do not give meaningful choice to the voters, which means when voters are looking at 2 or 3 political parties, there is no difference. Every political party looks same or with same propaganda. That is a problem which the voters are facing. So finally, if there are no meaningful choices for the voters, then they will vote for any of the parties. That is what is called as no meaningful choice for the voters. That is another point to be written about challenges to political parties. Another important area is how can parties be reformed. So that is the last part of the chapter. How can we reform political parties? What are the measures which are already adopted to reform political parties? Because since there are challenges, it's very important to find out solutions to deal with the challenges, to overcome the challenges. So those measures are called as reform measures. So first and foremost, you should write about defection. Defection means changing party after getting elected, changing party. It is restricted by the constitutional amendment, and then if MLAs or MPs, if they change a political party after the election, then their election or their seat will be declared as invalid. So that is one provision, one reform measure, and the other one is affidavit. Affidavit means, so you should highlight these key points. Affidavit, which is given by the candidates during the time of election, which includes their personal details, their assets, their criminal background, if it is so. All that will be disclosed, all that will be included in the affidavit, and they have to, it's a signed document given by candidates during the time of election. That is called affidavit. There are regulations for internal affairs of political parties, like they should maintain register, they should also have proper party meetings to avoid disputes or conflicts. They should not take a decision by 1 or 2 leaders. There should be decisions taken by the involvement of every member. That is what is called as internal democracy to be carried out in political parties. State funding for elections is another important point. Party tickets or political party tickets to be given for women candidates. So involvement of women, reservation for women also to be considered. All these are some measures to reform political parties. So all these points can be included as the measures to reform political parties. So these are the most important questions in this chapter, political parties. And then I will show you some important questions from this chapter which are expected for the exam, and which were there in the previous exams as well. So just go through those questions and try to solve those questions so for your better understanding about this chapter, and which will also help you for your upcoming board exam. So wishing you all the very best. So prepare very well for the exam with this chapter, political parties. Thank you. Thanks for watching.